Hi friends, welcome back to this little corner of the internet that is my channel, and today we're doing a belated winter 2022 favorites video. Before we get into this video, I would like to clarify that I fully had plans to get this video up on time because of the free time I was going to have over winter break, but I ended up going on a medical leave of absence from school right before winter break, and those issues continued throughout winter break, so I didn't really rest. I'm doing way better now, but and I have been for a while, but by the time I started to feel better, it was like finals time, so I had absolutely no free time because I was finishing school. But now we're here, so we're filming it now, and hopefully soon I will also do the spring favorites now that it is almost summer. I don't know if it's technically summer yet. It's June 18th as of filming this, so I don't remember if that's technically summer yet, but we'll get there. We'll get the videos there. So I feel like I've mentioned this a lot on this channel, and if I haven't, university's busy. I was in course overload this year, meaning I was in one more class than the recommended course load. Never doing that again. But because I did that, I didn't have a lot of free time to read for fun. So my books for my winter favorites are both assigned readings that I read, but I really, really loved them. The first one being Alfred Lord Tennyson's Idylls of the King, and as you can tell, I wrote a 2,000-word research paper on this. I really dived into the symbolism of emotions and the passions of anger and lust, and how those correlate to the beast image that Tennyson uses in the Idylls. And it was actually like a really interesting essay to write. It was my first time doing, or I don't know if you would technically call it an essay. It was the first research paper I've ever written, and I did pretty decently on it. And in a sense, it was like a bit easier to write than other papers I've done because I just really loved this book. If you aren't familiar with Idylls of the King, it is very old poetry about the Round Table and Camelot and King Arthur and Queen Guinevere's affair with Lancelot, the knight of King Arthur, and how things kind of all fall apart. This was definitely a more difficult read because of the like older English. That just always makes things more complicated for me to read in my brain and in most people's brains. But once I could like look up the spark notes after reading a poem and like could review the notes and interpretations that I'd written with the class and the professor, things like clicked, and I really loved it. And yeah. And I highly recommend this to any English students or people who just enjoy like medieval history or lore or King Arthur. It was really interesting, especially because I had read Lancelot previously, and Lancelot is a bit of a different perspective on the story of the affair between Guinevere and Lancelot. That's more Lancelot's point of view, and this is more like King Arthur's point of view. And I mean, you do sometimes get to see Guinevere's point of view and Lancelot's point of view, but it's mostly Arthur. And like, even with that, like seeing multiple points of view is really interesting. I believe I gave this 5 stars on Goodreads. The other book that I chose for winter favorites is King Lear by Shakespeare, which is my all-time favorite Shakespeare play, which is like a big deal for me because I'm a theater student and I love Shakespeare. If you're not familiar with King Lear, which honestly not enough people are, it is a tragic tragedy known as like the most tragic Shakespeare play and also the most difficult Shakespeare play to read. It's about this king, King Lear, who is really like, he's old in like what this time would consider an old person, so probably like in his 40s or 50s. His mind is not really all there anymore, so he wants to give up his land and his ruling to his 3 daughters, who are the princesses, and he decides that he wants to give more land to the daughters based on how much they love him. So he gives them like a competition where he challenges them to prove each of them have a chance to prove that they love him the most, and whoever he believes gets the most land, and it's like a ranking system. That's kind of the basis of it. From there, there's like feuds, obviously, because they want the most power. And except there's two sisters that feud because they want more power, and they immediately try to like argue that they love him the most. And then there's the one sister who's like, I love you just as much as a daughter should love her father. And King Lear's like really mad about that, so he banishes her, and other things ensue from there. There's also this character Edmund, who I absolutely adore. He's my favorite, and he's the son of an earl, but he's a bastard son, and he's the older brother to his brother Edgar, but because he's a bastard, meaning that his mother was like a prostitute and not like the earl's wife, he doesn't get any power, so he has this like long commentary throughout the play about the laws of nature and what rights he was given because of how he was born and how that was out of his control, and I've always found that really interesting. I performed his monologue for a senior project in high school. I read this in high school, so it's nice to go back to it, and I really like this edition in particular, the Oxford World Classics, because it has a lot of background information as a preface about the history of the play and the debate on if it was based on real people or not. And yeah, it's a really interesting read. I gave this 5 stars on Goodreads. The next category that I have for this winter favorites video is movies and TV, and I'm going to add some plays because I got to see some live theater this winter. I went on a trip to New York in November and had so much fun. Like, one of the best trips I've ever been on in my life. I went as a school trip with some musical theater students, some music students, and some history students. So like we went to some museums, we saw a traditional opera in Italian, and me and my friends went to see a couple of Broadway shows. And I need to mention those because obviously they were amazing, and I just had the time of my life watching them. So I got to see Beetlejuice, Hadestown, and Moulin Rouge. I only planned on seeing 2 shows and ended up seeing 3, and I just adored all 3 of those shows. Each show made me cry multiple times, not even just because of sad moments, but I had a moment in each of those 3 musicals where I was crying because I was so moved by how beautiful like professional Broadway live theater is. I feel like I can't even articulate in words how beautiful and moving and amazing it feels to be in a Broadway theater and watch a Broadway musical. Like, it, oh my god, it was amazing. And like Beetlejuice is just hilarious and moving and heart-wrenching, and then Hadestown is so tragic. Like, oh my god. And Moulin Rouge is also very tragic, but also like really funny. And I got to see Derek Klena in Moulin Rouge, and if you know me, I'm in love with Derek Klena. Like, he is one of my Broadway boys. So is Alex Brightman. So seeing Alex Brightman in Beetlejuice and Derek Klena in Moulin Rouge within a couple days of each other was an experience. Like, I was pining. And it was amazing. Yeah, just like cannot stress enough how wonderful those shows were. Oh, and I should probably say what these musicals are about. So Beetlejuice is basically about this couple who dies, and they don't realize at first that they are dead, but they're greeted by this demon named Beetlejuice, and he kind of shows them the ropes of being ghosts, and he offers to help them because this new family moves into the dead couple's house, and they want the house to themselves, but no one can hear them because they're dead. And Beetlejuice pretends he's going to help them, but really he's just trying to cause mischief. Based on the movie that most people are probably familiar with. It's really good. It's quite different from the movie and still like very good as its own thing. Hadestown is based on the mythological story of Orpheus and Eurydice, and also like Persephone and Hades with the changing of the seasons. It's pretty true to the original myth, but obviously like expands on the world a lot, especially Eurydice and Orpheus's relationship. It's got such beautiful music. And then Moulin Rouge is a little bit hard to explain without spoiling it, so I'll try to be vague. It's a jukebox musical, so the songs are all renditions of pop music, which is really fun. They change up the songs every so often because this is an older musical. So like there's a movie Moulin Rouge, but most of those songs are not the songs that I heard on Broadway because the movie's just older. And it's about this aspiring writer who goes to Paris, and he comes across this club called the Moulin Rouge and happens to have a chance encounter with one of the star performers who is a dancer and prostitute, and falls in love with her. And he's really determined to give her a better life, but he's a writer with no work, and like all he really has is his ambitions. He has nowhere to live, like nothing, and she is trapped in this world where she can't afford to live or work anywhere else. So, like, she wants him to leave and do his own thing because she cares for him and wants him to have a better life, but he wants to help her. And it's like this tough situation of love and heartbreak, and yeah, lots of stuff happens from there, but spoilers. Highly recommend listening to the albums of any of those musicals. They're so good. I also want to talk about something a bit more obscure, but I watched the French horror movie Raw, and oh my god, it is so good. First of all, soundtrack hits. I listen to the soundtrack for fun, and I never listen to instrumental soundtracks because they're not really my thing. I can appreciate them when I'm watching stuff, but I don't really listen to them in my downtime. But something about the Raw soundtrack is so good. Especially a song titled The Finger Scene, which sounds gross, and it is. That music, I literally, when I was watching the movie with my friend Ryan, there's a certain point in the song where both of us, like, our jaws dropped in unison, and it's so good. Oh my god. But the movie itself is, it's a body horror movie about this girl who goes to veterinary school, like college, and there's a hazing ritual where she has to eat, it's some sort of like dead animal part. I don't remember what it was. I think it's like a pig heart or something. And she's like strictly either vegetarian or vegan. I think it's just vegetarian. So she refuses, but eventually has to do it. And when she does it, she has this insatiable craving, like intense craving for meat. And then eventually raw meat. And then eventually human meat. And it gets very intense from there. It's very high stakes and like really good at building tension. And then like you never know if the tension is going to be like blown up into something huge or if it's just going to like fizzle out, which I really love in horror movies. And then there's also just points where all of a sudden something massive happens and you don't see it coming at all, and it just completely shocks you. So I highly recommend that movie. It is so good. The last thing I want to talk about in this category is, along with seemingly everybody else, I was watching The Last of Us, which is it was so good. I was into gameplays of the game way back when I was like in 9th and 10th grade, and it was such a good adaptation, and I cannot wait for season 2. It is like, if you're not familiar with the story, it's basically a zombie apocalypse survival show, but they're not technically zombies. They're technically it's a mushroom fungus that mutates and takes over people as hosts, and just turns them super violent and cannibalistic because they want to spread the fungus. And there's just this guy who's trying to transport this young girl who's like a young teenager to a safe area, and they develop this like father-daughter relationship reluctantly as they learn more about each other's pasts. And it's such a sweet show, but it's also like action-packed and like super intense and violent, and it's just so good. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are amazing. Okay, so onto the fashion category, and I'm trying to speed things up because I'm seeing that this video is getting quite long because I tend to ramble about the things I love. So, first thing I want to show is a Beetlejuice Broadway shirt that I got at the Broadway merch shop. You know, just have to represent one of my favorite musicals, and I really love it. I think it's just a nice neutral base for a darker outfit. I also have a Forever 21 x Sanrio Little Twin Stars cardigan, and it says like little twin stars on the side here, and then they have the 3 stars. I knew that there's another Sanrio Forever 21 collaboration coming out soon when I went on the trip, but I forgot to check like when it was dropping, and I saw some of these items in the Forever 21 window in Times Square and immediately was like, I need to go, I need to get something. And it was really hard deciding on like one thing because everything was pretty expensive, but I always love the Forever 21 collaborations that they do, and I'm so glad I got this. It's so comfy and just adorable. I also have this really cute hoodie that my friend Emma got me for Christmas of Care Bears. It's just from Urban Planet. It's pretty like oversized and really, really soft inside. It is literally the softest hoodie I own, so it's like a new comfort hoodie of mine, and I think it's a really cute pastel like loungewear outfit. And then I also have this pink blouse that I'm wearing, which I thrifted on Depop. I will link the seller in the description, but this is really, really cute. Aside from like some stains in the buttonholes, there's like some black markings, but once you button it, you can't really tell. And I think this is like such a cute top for like more dressed up fairy Kay outfits. Right now I'm just kind of pairing it with some purple dress pants, but I could easily pair this with a frilly skirt and some cute accessories and make a really nice cord. And lastly, I have this friendship bracelet of a little mushroom with an axe that my friend Fen got me for Christmas, and they have a matching one, and I think it's really cute and I love his vibes. And now we're going to go on to the other category, which as always is the biggest category. And I'll start off with this Simba plush that I got in the Disney store in Times Square. I think he's so cute, he's so soft, and this is a plush that I always wanted as a kid. One of my friends had it when we were little, like in elementary school, and I didn't get a chance to get him when I went to Disney World, and I always regretted it. Especially as I got older and I saw the shipping costs on the Disney store website, because as a Canadian it's really expensive. So once I realized that there's a Disney store in Times Square, I knew I had to get him, and I'm really glad I did. And also from New York, I got this Moulin Rouge tote bag. I originally just got a Moulin Rouge magnet, and I got the magnet at intermission, and then by the end of the show, I went back for a tote bag because they had like the vendors selling their merch in the theater. And this is actually a really nice tote bag. It kind of like, you can't really see because it's full of stuff, but it kind of like folds out to be larger and pretty sturdy and cute. And then we have a couple more plushies. So I have this Squishmallow Baratelli that Emma, the same friend that got me the Care Bears hoodie, also got me Baratelli for Christmas. And I love his little crown. I love frog Squishmallows. They're so freaking cute. And then Emma and their partner Serena got me this Keroppi Squishmallow for my birthday, which my birthday is in spring, but this was given to me early in February because I had COVID and I was really going through it in isolation. So they were like, we want to give this to you early, and left it at my door and ran away. And I really appreciated him. He's really cute. I love his little hat. And then from Emma and our friend Cass, they got me this Bruno Encanto doll for Christmas because I had a really strong Encanto hyperfixation when the movie came out, and Bruno in particular was my ultimate favorite. So this is really cute. And then another Christmas gift I got from my friend Fen was this It bookmark. It says Losers at the bottom, and it has the like spooky house on the back. Really cute. I believe it's from Etsy. And lastly, Fen got me, which was insane, Fen got me a Supernatural pilot script signed by Jared Padalecki, Jensen Ackles, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. And if you know me, you know that Supernatural is one of my favorite things in life. Like, I have been fixated on this show for the past 9 years, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. So I did scream a little bit when I opened this, and it is like one of my prized possessions now. I love this thing so much. So that wraps everything up for this winter favorites video. Sorry this was a bit long-winded. I had a lot to show, and I love rambling about my favorite things, which is why I make these videos. So hopefully you enjoyed my ramblings, and if you really enjoyed it, please leave a like and consider subscribing for more videos. And I plan to have the spring favorites video coming up next, as well as some other larger projects that I hope to finish this summer. So thank you for watching.